morning, my name's Holly Saunders and I'm going to be talking to you today about oil pastels. Oil pastels have got a bit of a bad reputation in the art world as being a rather secondary art medium, and I find them very, very good, and I've worked with them for many, many years. I think we tend to think of them as the oil pastel we had at school, which was a little bit disappointing, quite hard to use, and hopefully today I can show you different ways of using oil pastel. And how you can get detail, how you can blend them, how you can scrape through, and if you wish, how you can use them with white spirit. But they are very versatile and very easy to use medium, and I'd like to prove everybody wrong by saying they are a fantastic thing to use. They fall into two main categories. The oil pastel we all had at school, which is rather cheap and quite difficult to use, and that's what's put us all off, and the artist quality oil pastel, primarily the Sennelier oil pastel. Now the Sennelier oil pastel was the one that Picasso asked Sennelier to make for him, and that's where we get oil pastel from. So it was an invention invented by Picasso, if you like, and it's basically an oil stick. It's oil based, but it also has wax in there and pigment. And with the student ones, there's less pigment and more wax. That's what makes them quite tricky to use. And the artist one, they are very, very strong colours, lots and lots of strong pigment, and a bigger range of fantastic colours. And why I love them so much is their immediacy. So you can pick a stick up and draw straight away. So if you're outside, for example, you can just pick up a few sticks and draw straight onto a canvas or a piece of paper, and off you go. You don't have to squeeze out any tubes. And as an oil painter, when I wanted to work outside, I found the oil pastel very easy and very immediate. Today we're going to be working from a photograph, however, and hopefully I'll be able to show you all the different techniques: scraping through, blending, blending with white spirit and with a medium, and transferring. And transferring is quite an original way to use oil pastel. I have actually blown up that photograph to a black and white A4 copy, and on the back of that I have put white oil pastel. And to get that image onto a canvas, I've put the black and white photocopy on top of the canvas. I've pressed, in this case with a red pencil so I can see where I've been, pressed onto it, and it leaves a lovely white line in oil pastel on the canvas. The preparation of the canvas has just been acrylic gesso mixed with a little bit of acrylic grey colour to give this mid-tone background. And there you can see that I've got this image very easily onto the canvas. I think it's important when we're working from photographs to remember they are purely a starting point, and to use our memory and our feelings about the place. This is an area of Gloucestershire I know very, very well, so I'm going to be interpreting the colour as I remember it. We're going to start with the sky, which in the photograph is white, but I remember this afternoon being particularly sunny and with a lovely blue sky. Okay, we're going to start with the sky. We're just going to use a couple of oil pastels, a white and a blue. I'll put some white down. And you can see how well these oil pastels blend together. I'm going to mixture of blues and white. They are very creamy. These are Sennelier oil pastels, which I definitely think are the best. Though the student ones have their place as well. And we can follow the lines, go slightly over the lines if you wish, because the trees are going to go over the edge, and therefore you'll get that feeling of the sky being behind the trees. And I'm just going to add a little bit of dry brushing to blend them even further. So that's a hog hair brush and a little bit of white spirit. and get rid of any marks you don't like. It's important to use a hog hair brush, as a soft hair brush would be too soft. It wouldn't be strong enough to blend oil pastel, because oil pastel is quite heavy and sticky. I'm going to blend that all down. This technique is a little bit like painting. Of course, it's not something you have to do every time you use oil pastel, but it's a useful tip. You certainly don't want to have too much white spirit on the brush. So we've done the sky, and now we're going to move on to the distant tree line. And remember, when you're working from photographs, you can adapt the colour. When things are in the distance, we add a little bit more blue. And so I'm going to be putting quite a lot of blues into these trees to push them away. And similarly, when we come down to the foreground, you want to add some warmth down here to pull this cottage forward. But as I say, we're going to start up here. And so if you pick up a variety of greens and blues, and you can blend them all together. There's quite a lot of shadow at the bottom of the trees. You can look at the photograph for reference, obviously. That's what it's there for, but it's really just a reference tool. Put some nice dark blues in there. A nice rich Prussian blue. And see how beautifully these pastels mix together, blend together, blending all the greens and the blues. Push up into the sky, overlap the sky, so you feel that the trees are sitting in front of the skyline. One of the main complaints with oil pastel is that you cannot get any detail with it. And I'm going to show you one of the ways of getting detail with oil pastels to scrape through. So if you layer it up, put one colour on top of the other, you can scrape through to the bottom layer using a sharp object, a knife or a nail. You can see you can come right through to the grey colour underneath and reveal some of the blue as well. Now this is particularly good if you're doing textures on animal fur or whiskers or that sort of thing. You can get minute amounts of detail, revealing the colours underneath, and literally hairline bits of detail. Equally, you can use this to get rid of mistakes. If you've put down some pastel but you really don't want it there, you can scrape it off. So we've filled in a little bit more on the canvas now, and I'm just going to show you how you can use stencils and masks to create even more detail. On the original photograph we had telegraph poles, which I'm going to put in now using this mask. And I'm going to start off by using the dark brown pastel. These masks are designed for rubbing out, but they're wonderful because they give you these very precision detail holes and shapes and squares that you can push your pastel through to get little marks left on the canvas or the paper. And that's quite dark and quite heavy. We want the effect of light hitting the pole, so we're going to put a little bit of white just to lighten it a bit. Using a little bit of white. That's better. And the same with this one. There you have your telegraph poles, and that's another way of creating detail with oil pastel. Another technique of getting detail onto the picture is by tracing through. And if you put oil pastel on tracing paper and just scribble it on there, you can flip it over, press on the back, and you get a nice line left on your paper or your canvas. There, you've got your little bit of detail with your tree in front of the cottage there. Sometimes with your pastel pictures it's nice to have a nice crisp line, and in this case we've got the cottage which is in front of the landscape and it's got a nice solid roof, and we're going to do that by cutting a stencil into our original A4 black and white photocopy and lay it over the top. You could do this with just an ordinary piece of paper and run your pastel over the paper and the roof, or wherever you want the pastel to go, so that you can lift it off and get a nice crisp line there. Get these chimneys nice and crisp. That off and hopefully have a nice sharp line. As I mentioned in the beginning, there are student and artist quality oil pastels, and the student oil pastel has its place and can be very, very useful. It's harder than the artist quality pastel, but it can be broken and used on its side to cover large areas, which I'm going to do now. And the other huge advantage on student pastels, of course, is that they're very, very affordable. That's why you see them in schools. And they come in a terrific range of colours. One of the concerns people have is what to do with an oil pastel picture once it's finished. They can remain tacky for a little time and can collect dust if you put them on the wall straight away. However, if left for a period of time, they will harden. To speed that process up, you can spray fix them with an oil pastel fixative, which gives a nice sealant, and then the picture can be put on the wall almost straight away. Hopefully I've addressed all your fears about using oil pastel, and now you can go ahead and use them yourself. Thank you.